Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And it's been.
on Spoiled Rotten.
And on that shelf.
Boom. Well, we're here. It's Hellboy 2. Only notable because I'm pretty sure we are recording this the day before we release our Hellboy 1 episode. So that's interesting.
Boom.
To only us, really. No, it doesn't really matter to anyone else.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah.
But yeah, it's the one that I've been told everyone likes better. I can see that it has a higher score on IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's time to find out if I agree with all those people. No.
Wait, you just said that people like it better?
Yeah, I don't like it better.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
I understand what's fun about it, but I definitely don't like it better. And I'm not even saying, like, I liked it better than I did when I first saw it. But I also I'm like, no, the first one's the best one.
I like this one a lot better than the first one. I fall in that camp.
Yeah.
And my reasons are just like, I like that it just jumps in, it just goes, and we've established the characters, and we're just having a fun adventure at this point.
That is what I assume people like about it. It's just a fun adventure.
It's a lot lighter.
Yeah, it doesn't really
do
it
a lot lighter for me. Yeah. I get why you would like the first one more. From a character building standpoint, I'm just saying I like this one more. I had more fun in this one. And that's primarily because still, at the end of this day, I would not say I'm a Hellboy fan.
Mm-hmm.
But so with that nature, I enjoyed this one more knowing that I didn't have to do as much work to invest into these characters as the first one.
Fair enough.
But that being said, let's get into the nitty-gritty of this. Let's sink our hands into Hellboy 2.
You finally got to hear what Doug Jones sounds like.
Yep.
I guess you could see why I was saying it didn't really make a difference, one way or the other. It's not like you were like, oh, yeah, I get it now. It's like, yeah, they sound pretty similar.
Yeah.
And I know that they did it so that they could have a name for the movie, but...
I will say I was less interested in him because of that.
Oh, you think David Hyde Pierce is better?
I enjoyed his voice, his acting a lot better. I did.
I find it to be exactly the same.
I'm just saying, like, if you were to force me to choose between the two, I would be like, sure, David Hyde Pierce, but because
he's in the better movie. Gotcha.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Or because I just know his name more than Doug Jones.
All I'm saying is if you had no idea that there was two different people doing the voices, I don't think that it would come like top of mind for you if you were watching.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. If I didn't know, I wouldn't care. You're right. I didn't make a difference.
Yes.
To me, the acting credit is important. I'm not saying it's not, but to me, the David Hyde Pierce being in the first one versus not and everything like that, it's solely up to him. And if I remember correctly from the first one, it was because he refused to take credit for it, but people ended up knowing about it, and they ended up referencing it anyway. So it was just like, he just what he wanted to.
It was more like they can't put him on the poster. Well, I guess nobody's name is on the poster, but maybe he doesn't know that ahead of time. But don't put his name on the poster. Don't put his name in the trailers. He didn't go to the premiere. He didn't do any interviews for any press for it. That's more what it is. But I'm pretty sure, if you watch it, they have to credit him. They can't not credit him. It's just more like don't promote him. And then, there's no point for him to come back for the second one, I feel like, because it's like, as I feel like it's quite obvious, like Doug Jones doing it or David Hyde Pierce doesn't really matter. It's the same.
No, because
effect.
it's the same effect. You're absolutely right, because it's still.
I would rather Doug Jones do it. I would rather Doug Jones do it because it's like his performance, and why not have the full thing?
Yeah.
But I also am like, okay, fine. If you're scared that you're not going to make money and you want to put like Frasier's brother in it, great. It is a nice voice. People are used to it of a certain generation.
Yeah,
But it is pretty similar to Doug Jones' voice.
100%, yes. So to me, I'm just like, it raises my eyebrow a little bit more to be like, what was the point of that?
It was specifically so that they could like have a name in the movie.
I get that, but it just like ended up not going that way anyways for them.
Everyone knows
that was the intent. It just didn't go with. They just didn't use the David Hyde Pierce like voice credit to promote or whatever. So it was just to like. At the end of the day, it was just like a bunch of meh. Like,
I think it's more like if you say he's in it, you probably can get more money. You can probably get more advertising money, even though the proviso is don't put thing. But it is still like this person is working with us, so.
Right.
We're not that.
That's credibility. Yeah, I'll get that. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really have like a ton of insight into the movie. I'm just like, yeah, it's definitely more fun. It's more of an adventure. They get Seth MacFarlane's character is interesting.
Yeah. To me,
what's his name? Strauss. Johann Strauss.
That is the
It's like
Krauss.
Yeah.
Krauss.
Not Kraut. It's Krauss. All right, got it.
Yeah. Apparently it's Krauss, and yeah, that guy was cool. I did enjoy that with Seth MacFarlane. But to me, the thing that really made this one fun to me was the action scenes. The action scenes were so much more fun to me, and it felt like there was a point in the fight cinematography that I was just like, wow, this is just really, really impressive. The way it's shot, the way it's done, the attention to detail, everything about it was really, really good. And like, you think back to some of the reasons why, and you think to, well, okay, the Blade 2 stuff that we talk about, very, very similar kind of action sequences. And then you find out it's because Mr. Luke Goss, who plays Prince Nuada, was the mutant vampire Jared Nomak in Blade 2. And so you're like, oh, the pieces are coming together. This makes sense without and because the heavy prosthetics and the makeup makes it so there's that movie magic, you don't make that association. But wow, it's a fun action sequence, I find. And the whole premise of everything that they're trying to stop is good. Like, I really enjoyed it.
He did train for 7 months, so I'm glad that paid off. One thing I'll give the movie is I like that it is a continuation of Hellboy's progression in terms of making room for others. That seems to be the main push. Like when the prince makes that like plant monster, and it's kind of like, yeah, I guess I shouldn't kill it. Like it's just trying to live, and like just that through line, because then obviously he's going to have kids. He's going to have to make room for them. He still needs to make room for Liz, even though they're living together. She feels like she's being boxed in. So that I like about the sequel is that they are still playing. And I do like that he's still a bit touchy about his dad, especially when Krauss is talking about him.
Yeah.
Punches a hole in his helmet. I like that stuff. But I honestly couldn't tell you like what the plan is or anything. I know they have to like complete making the crown. I guess I like the princess stuff that she's connected to him, so that always caught like that time that he first challenges the prince to a fight. And Abe is kind of like, yeah, you can't kill him though, because it's gonna hurt her, like she's gonna die as well, so please don't do that. So that is an interesting fight. I like that because there's some plot tied to it as well. It's not just an action scene.
To me, I think some of the strengths of this movie is the moving away from Hellboy a little bit and more onto him within more of a group stuff, but more of a focus on Abe and like that relationship between the sister, the Princess Nuala, and that was really, really interesting. Now, parts of it landed for me, parts of it didn't because of the prosthetics and all that kind of stuff. But this movie, I feel like had a lot more strengths because it was more evenly distributed throughout the majority of the characters except for Liz. I find like it just felt like she was gone most of the movie, and you're like, okay, it's kind of the same thing where she's like coming back, and I don't know.
I think that is a part that doesn't really work for me because so
Yeah.
much of the first movie is, even though they're not always together, it's his connection to Liz, and
Yeah.
it is about Liz in the sense of like understanding that Hellboy knows that it's better if she's with them than if she's by herself or trying to integrate as a regular human being.
Mm-hmm.
So then for this movie to kind of just be like, she doesn't really have much to say now, like other than, oh, Red, I can't live like this. You're like, cool.
Yeah.
So that is definitely, I agree with you, a negative for the movie.
Because I was really hoping like, there'd be pushback from that. You see the scenes where she's like has all the cats in her face and all that kind of stuff, and they're like legitimately trying to have that discussion of like, hey, how about we make this place a little bit of my own too. She just kind of like, and I kind of forget how, but like she just kind of leaves through that. Does she leave herself, or does she have to get taken off on a mission? Because the next time I see her again is with like Jeffrey Tambor.
She just says, I'm leaving.
Oh, okay, yeah. So she just takes off and was like, hey, you got to figure this out, and like takes off, right?
But it doesn't really last that long.
I don't like that part because he doesn't. At that point, he doesn't go back and fights for her again. It's just, it doesn't.
Well, that's
change.
because that's the progression of his character. He never fights for her, but the progression of his character is at that point. No, he wouldn't be like, oh, come on, please, because he already did that in the first movie. Like there'd be no progression if he's just like, no, stay, because that's what he was doing in the first movie. The point is he needs to get to the point where he can actually accommodate other people's wishes in his sphere.
Yeah. And it's just weird that she just takes off.
No, I don't find that weird at all. I feel like you tried it.
Well, I mean, for the sake of the movie. For the sake of the movie, like I wish there was a little bit more of her throughout that period of time.
I just feel like it's not properly resolved. I don't know if it.
I agree.
I don't think it's weird. I just think it's like, oh, I guess they were like, oh yeah, I guess she left. She's back. They're fine.
Yeah, it's not properly resolved. It's just like, hey, guess what? You're gonna be a dad, and you have to now. And it's just like, oh, well, that sucks.
But I do think that
it's such in the sense where they didn't get to have the proper resolution to that.
But that's why I would disagree that this movie's strength is they moved away from Hellboy, because that's exactly why you don't have time to resolve something like that, which is pretty important considering the movie's called Hellboy 2.
Correct.
Like this movie felt a lot more like Men in Black, but like even then, like when you're watching a Men in Black movie, depending on which one, there's clearly like a main person you're following. And this movie, I think you're right, but I don't see it as a strength, does start to pull focus to Abe, who's doing something completely different.
Right.
Than what Hellboy's doing. So it's not like you can't really resolve the two things together.
It's true. It's just, I guess I was trying to pay more attention to Abe in this one because I was like, oh, yeah, we got Hellboy's love story out of the way. He's trying to fix his shit. He's trying to get himself together, and the story's got to progress at the same time. But like, it seemed like the movie was more interested in exploring Abe and what he has to go through.
Well, I think they wanted to do a spin-off or something.
Oh, yeah?
I think so.
I felt like this movie itself was the spin-off, you know what I mean? It was so focused on Abe that it was like, well, you did get an Abe Sapien movie, Hellboy 2.
I mean, he's got a lot more to do. I don't know how focused it is on him as an actual character. Like, he's just on screen. Like, he's got his love interest, but I couldn't tell you like how that factors into anything other than like him having the knowledge of, well, they're connected, so don't kill the brother.
It really doesn't factor into anything more if it's in service of the plot of the movie, which is to stop the Golden Army.
Yeah.
I just like the fact that he found that attachment to her and found that, that beauty in her. It was just nice that they had each other. Sucked that he had to see her die.
Yeah, I think it would be, I feel like it would be more interesting if for both Liz and the princess to have more to do during the movie. I get that they're on screen a lot, but I feel like, because obviously when the sister kills herself so that the brother can't do anything, it probably works for a lot of people in terms of like, oh, what a sacrifice. But I'm like, yeah, I just don't see how her entanglement with our heroes swayed that either way. That seems like that would have happened no matter what. So I would rather.
That seems like I don't feel like she loved him enough to be like, this is something I don't want to do. It wasn't like a payoff situation where you're like, Logan really. It's a Logan Phoenix situation in X-Men 3 for better or worse of a comparison, but without any build up to like, it was like a significantly less build up of the relationship, and you're like, I am not convinced that this is that big of a decision. You're choosing either to let your brother wreak hell on everyone or this kind of situation, right? And because the brother was defeated, and
I feel like we already know from the beginning when you meet her and she has the third piece he's looking for but won't give it to him, that it's like, okay, like she's willing, like she's not on his side. Like she's not on his side. And it doesn't matter that she meets Abe. It doesn't matter that she meets Hellboy, because she would have made the same decision no matter what was happening. Like, if it came down to it, yeah, I believed that she would take her life to stop that. And so, like, I just feel like the time we took away from Abe or from the Hellboy stuff, meaning we get kind of a flat ending for him and Liz as well, wasn't that well spent, because it didn't build anything up. It was just like, I guess we're focusing on Abe now. Yeah.
It's more. It sucks because you're like, you give him something and then it has to be taken away, and you know it has to be taken away because you know the movie's going to end there. Because he's like, the prince is like saying, "Kill me, I will never stop." He can never stop. He knows that because he's got his people behind him. He's made such a big deal of this that his story cannot be like, oh, I now respect you and therefore will no longer use my golden army to take over. No, he's like, I promise bloodshed. I promise conquering. I promise all this kind of stuff. And there's no way people will understand how a peaceful resolve will happen. You have to kill me. And it was just like,
it's a Killmonger proposition.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a Killmonger.
Like, like, I'm never going to be your friend.
Yeah.
Just
and
know
there's no way I can change my moral position.
Yeah.
So we're always going to be enemies no matter what.
It's Killmonger. It's the Michael Shannon Zod. Like, you're just going to have to kill me because
there's no
I don't like you guys, and I'm coming to stop. I think one line, this has nothing to do with me thinking this is a good movie. One line I really liked was when he's at the auction and he says, "Let this be a reminder of why you're afraid of the dark." I was like, that's cool. I wish he had more stuff like that to do. Like, because you're right. He's got great fight scenes, but I just did not connect with him as a villain at all. I was just like, what?
No, okay. I can't connect with him as a villain, which is why it makes the fight scenes so much more fun, because it just makes it so very, very comic book, good guy versus bad guy.
But scenario. I feel like he does a lot of fighting people that we want him to fight anyway. Like, he fights Hellboy, but then he's also like fighting all these other monsters, and I'm like, well, it seems like those monsters we're gonna have to fight Hellboy at one point. So good, I guess he's thinning the ranks. Like, I find the movie is very fun and visually pleasing. I don't find that it's very rooted in anything specific or worthwhile.
I agree with that. This is a very surface level movie. I will say that. There's you can dig into it, into the imagery more than anything else, for sure.
Well, yeah, because they're basing it a lot on like Irish and Scottish like lore, and I'm sure there's a bunch of things that people get from that.
Absolutely. You can definitely go deep dive into how the aesthetics, the makeup, the costume design, the set design, all those things factor in to everything. Tonally, the movie keeps through the whole place, but you're right, it does lack a heart to it, a heart that the first one agreeably did have. But for me, not being a Hellboy fan, again, it just like that, it made me not care about the first one, because I'm like, I know I get what they're trying to do. It's just not connecting for me. So therefore, I'm like, I'm down for the action of Hellboy 2, because the action shifted more towards the prince and the prince's action scenes and the prince's journey towards getting the crown. Right? It really focused on that action so much more than Hellboy's action. Hellboy's action is great. I do like it. But because we saw so much of it in the first movie, I did enjoy the shift in how the action was.
Prince. Yeah.
This one. Yeah. I liked it. It worked for me a lot more.
Yeah. I honestly don't have a lot to say because I'm just like, it doesn't feel very substantial to me. It seems like
it's not.
That was fun. Like,
yeah, even the stuff I like about it, where I'm saying like, hey, I like the Abe Sapien like attempt at having, a connection, a romantic angle. I can say that all I want, even though I know that, hey, that's a character I know will have to die at the end of the movie. Therefore, none of this is going to be worthwhile. It's a very, very easy conclusion to go to mid-movie. Or even just the fact that it's like, hey, I'm not willing to give my brother this. You're like, okay, you're willing to die for it then, or you're going to die in the process, and it's going to be sad. It's a relationship that's going to end, and you know pretty much how it's going to end. Yeah. Even then, it doesn't work. So I'm absolutely agreeing with you, and I'm like, to me, it's just depending on the viewer, like, and the fan base or whatever, or lack of fan base in my situation, because that worked so much better for me.
I feel like I'm the person that's like, no, Batman Begins is better than Dark Knight because I don't like those people. But like, the first one is better. Hellboy 2004 is better than 2008 Hellboy 2 for me. And I think it's because I connect with a lot more stuff. And I feel like this movie has sprinkles of that, but it's not committed to anything really other than the spectacle of it, which is fine.
Yes.
Looks nice. That's what I found the mouths moved a bit weirder in this one.
Yeah.
I have to go back. I'm like, it's not as synced up this time. I watched it on Crave. Maybe the version they have, but I was just like, like this doesn't feel as smooth as the first one. It looks, but like everything else in terms of fighting looks better.
That is true, but here's the thing. I get what you're saying with the syncs and all that kind of stuff. There's something about this one that feels, even though aesthetically everything else feels better, there's something about this that makes it seem more plastic.
Yeah. Like, especially when they're talking to like the Scottish troll near the end, like, and I'm like, but his mouth is like barely moving, like sometimes. It just, surely they had better angles if they couldn't get like the face to work properly.
Yeah, I feel like because this one, tonally, there was a lot more light. There was a lot, like the sets had more light. You were meant to see a lot more of the detail in this one. They couldn't get away with the things that we probably got away with in the first one, because the first one was so much more darker. That's what one of the biggest things was like. Was the first one the same level, or was it? Because I know there was more detail in this one for sure. Like when you're like, to me, the scene where he gets stabbed and like you see the close-ups of him with the image of the screen showing how close the spear tip is to his heart. You really start to see the makeup stuff, the prosthetics, and all of it come up like a lot more. And I'm just like, well, yes, because the lights are shining on, but like I never had a moment of that in the first one at all. And to me, it's because of this lighter imagery. Like it made everything look more plastic. And that was one of my questions to you from the look department. Did this look faker than the first one did? Or like, I feel
like especially Abe Sapien felt faker to me.
Yeah. Right.
He didn't seem to have, like, I feel like he kind of, maybe I'm just confusing it with Shape of Water, but I felt like he always looked wetter and like more tactile. This just looked like it was a suit that he had to put on. Yeah. He's filming a movie. Like it didn't feel like it was in that world.
I agree. It looked like, so the first one looked like his skin was always wet because that's how he needed to kind of get air through his skin or something like that. Yeah. This one, it just looked like your skin just looks like it's shiny. It doesn't look wet. It looks shiny. And I'm like, it made a big change for me in the believability of this. Even though it looked better all around for, I would say, the villains, the sets, the character designs and all that kind of stuff, and all the monsters especially,
Yeah,
Hellboy and his crew lost a little bit of the magic, I feel.
I agree.
Yeah.
One thing I did like was the opening. I felt like there was some rapid fire jokes that happened. Like I liked the just. I mean, Jeffrey Tambor has his own issues. I'm
Yes.
not ignoring that, but
Yep.
his character in this Manning was really funny. The way he interacted with everybody, and I even liked how they explained away the like guy from the first movie not being there when he's like, "What? Like, what's the big deal?" I got along with that guy. She's like, "Yeah," and then you sent him to like Antarctica or whatever. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, good. He still doesn't trust him. He's out of
Yeah.
here. Like,
Yeah, I appreciate that dialogue explanation because it's just like it's very easy to not do. It's very easy to not care, but they did it, and I
mhm.
appreciated it. She's like, "Where is he?" Oh, right there he
He
is.
got transferred because Hellboy still doesn't like that he took Abe on a date or that he took Liz on a date.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they don't look as good as the first. That's not fair. There's certain times where they don't look as good as they did in the first movie, but I feel like there's times where they look just as good or better. So it's a real trade-off. It's not as consistent. I'll say that. It's not as consistent as the first
Yeah.
movie
Yeah.
in
I
terms
would.
of Hellboy and Abe.
Yes.
I think you're right, and the monsters they introduce in this consistently look better.
Yes. They look so good. Like the trolls, the mechanical. I don't know what that monster is, but like the guy with the mechanical
Yeah, I
fist.
liked him. I
Yeah.
like the Angel of Death.
Angel of Death look awesome.
That was
So
really
cool.
cool.
Yeah. All that kind of stuff really, really, really is coming to light in this one. Guillermo is like really getting his way in visuals and all
Well,
that.
yeah, when they get to do the troll market and you get to see everything. I really like that scene where he's talking and you think it's a baby and the baby's like talking all this shit like you're never gonna get it, like, oh, you
Yeah.
might as well give up. And then he's like, why is your baby like that? He's like, I'm not a baby, I'm a tumor. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's really funny to me.
Yeah. To like and to me like and I think that's why I do like this movie better is because it did have that magic of we are now entering a different world together because like that like the troll market doesn't exist, the troll market doesn't exist part of the movie was fun, and then you got to experience it with Hellboy. It kind of had that movie magic of, oh, we're going into a brand new kind of world, like in Harry Potter, for example, when you go to Hogwarts for the first time, or like Star Wars when you go to Mos Eisley for the first time.
I just
It's
feel
got
like in
that.
both of the examples you gave there was
Yeah,
way better build up and way better payoff.
those are way better buildups.
I
Um,
think for this,
I
it's
definitely
like,
thought
oh,
about
I'm like, oh, I guess they have to go there. Like, it doesn't feel like, oh, but like there's these rules and like you don't get to, like, that's what I mean by way better payoff. Like, even like for Harry Potter, it's like, this is the wizarding world and you get to see like certain things that are like, this is confirming like what is happening and
I
how
agree.
it's so much different. Whereas this, I'm like, I guess they just never saw it before and now you get to see trolls, but it
For
doesn't
yeah,
feel like it's like, oh, okay,
it doesn't
great.
feel like
Get
the characters paid a price of admission. It was just like, oh yeah, no, it's real, it's over here, and that like that's what it felt like. And I was like, yeah, that's sucky. What I'm talking about is just the visual magic of just seeing.
I am saying it
Yeah,
didn't feel very magical to me. It just was like,
really.
yeah, it's
Oh,
just like, oh, yeah, they just found more monsters, which based on the first movie, we already know that's a possibility. It's not like this is a new thing like they discovered. Like
oh, what I'm
I
talking
just
about,
feel
like, specifically in their realm, because the first one was like, here's monsters in the human world, but I'm like, here's monsters in
but
their
what
own
I'm
realm.
saying is
Cool.
nothing about that visually felt like it wasn't the human world, just felt hidden. Like it didn't look drastically different from stuff we'd already seen.
It's true. You still see brick buildings. I agree with that.
Yeah, I
You'll
mean,
see all those kinds of things.
there wasn't like this. Like I get it, you go from under the Brooklyn Bridge to that, but it doesn't. It just feels like okay, yeah, we're just in a new place, dealing with things that like, especially since it takes so much time before you get to Hellboy with, um, the prince, and he's already underground and fighting other beings. Like you're just like, oh, it's just more of that. It didn't feel as special as it could have because of the pacing and the way it was presented in that. And I'm not saying that's a universal truth. I'm just saying for me, it didn't work for the way it did for you because I'm like,
Gotcha.
it doesn't like those two instances you gave. It's like there is a drastic difference between Harry Potter's life before and after seeing Hogwarts. There's
That's
a
true.
difference for Luke when he goes from where he is to like getting on
That's
with
true.
it in the
Yeah,
adventure.
in that main case, we've already had that in the first one. It's specific. You're right, because that's a brand new world versus this one is just like, ooh, trolls.
Yeah.
Like that's what it was. But to me, like that, ooh, trolls was fun enough for me to have that small moment. But with that reflection that you had, though, absolutely, you're right. It's not the same. Wait, what are you talking about? Wizards, and then here's Hogwarts, a magical castle where people are flying around on brooms, versus regular driving and all that kind of stuff. Totally
Yeah.
agree with that.
I just feel like it was like, okay, fine, you found the troll's lair, but it wasn't like, it didn't feel new to me. Like it didn't feel like a new world. It was just like, yeah, you found like the rat's nest. You got him. And then even while they're there, he doesn't have to like abide by certain rules or like do like even in the first movie where he has to like he can speak to the dead and like needs to get the help. Like there was nothing like that. Like
Right.
like indicate that like something magical like or cool is happening.
Yeah.
Just
It
kind
just
of like,
felt
yeah,
like
you
a
found
really
it.
well kept secret, I guess. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right about that. It's like, here, it's a secret.
Yeah.
Cool.
And like, yeah, they're using the binoculars that show people's true nature or whatever. But I'm just like, and I think that part is cool. But again, you're already before you're in the troll market, or not even the troll market, but like before, I think that is the troll market. Before you're even
I think
in
it
there,
is, yeah.
you get to see them seeing all the new stuff already. So again, it kind of undercuts the reveal for me because I'm like, yeah, like you've teased this enough. Like, all right, they got in, great.
Fair. Okay. Yeah, I see why this movie didn't work so well for you then. A lot of what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me. Because to me, it's just like, I'll admit, I'm like, hey, all right, cool. Watching Hellboy 2.
Yeah, I that's what I'm saying. Like, I get that people are like, yeah, that's a fun movie.
Yeah.
I just, yeah, it's just a fun movie to me. It's not like I find like the first movie has more going for it. I also admittedly like world building, and I don't feel like there's that much world building in this. It's all like we're just moving around.
Yeah.
We're on an adventure.
Right. It's just like, here, let's go here now.
Yeah.
This is a very, very linear, straightforward movie. It didn't have the same depth of emotion the first one did. It chose to build on, I think, they made different decisions in, let's put strength behind the character design, the sets, the monsters, the visuals. Let's put our eggs in that basket. And then the writing, not like it did fall apart a little bit, because it was just like, it's a very straightforward story, and they leaned too much on characters that we didn't care about.
Yeah, that might be the case. Because I would say that I wouldn't even say it's a poorly written. I mean, for my taste, yeah, it is a bit lacking writing, only because I feel like there's two outcomes where you're kind of like, I guess so, yeah, which is the princess killing herself and Liz being like, yeah, I'm dedicated to Hellboy. We're gonna raise our kids together. It's kind of like, I just feel like you guys didn't have the conversation about that.
No,
And I
they
know
didn't.
that that's not what this movie's for, but since they put it in there as a problem they need to solve, you're forcing the audience to be like, okay, solve it then. Like,
I agree.
You brought it up. I would have been happy if they were just like, it's just stressful because she's pregnant and he's kind of freaking out about it, but they didn't make it that way. They made it like it's a problem because even before she's having kids, she's stressed out about being around him.
Yep.
And then having kids is just making it to the point where it's like, maybe I should just leave then.
Yep.
And then for the princess thing, I'm just like, yeah, I just wish there was more time with her, because they give the prince so much to do that I'm just like,
but at the same time, the princess doesn't have much she's got a very straightforward kind of story.
I mean, I think that's why this is me highlighting why it's bad writing, because as I say all that stuff, it's like, yeah, then you've written a movie where there's too many masters to serve.
Yeah.
and you've pulled focus from Hellboy, where you could have had a more streamlined thing, still could have been fun, but you've placed these other things in place that lead to some sloppy conclusions.
Yeah. True. It is true. Oh well.
But yeah, the fun. I do like the opening bit. Like, I especially like him hearing the story from his dad at the beginning,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
I
but like
did
even
bring
that,
that
I'm
up.
like, it just maybe they don't need to lean into it. It's set up that it's like it's something that he is aspiring to do. Like, he's like, no, I will challenge them. Like, why not? Like, that sounds like a good idea for me. And then he does challenge them, but I'm kind of like, I wish it was more like a thing that was building up in him throughout the movie of like, yeah, like I'll fucking challenge these guys to the throne or whatever. Because I know at what the last minute Liz is like, oh, no chance you're taking the crown. Like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
melt it. But like, which is a joke. I wasn't thinking like, oh, maybe he'll take it, but it was like they set up that this kid is like, well, it hardly seems fair that they get to do this. Like, what if someone challenged them? Could you stop it? And I feel like, again, because there's so much else going on, you don't even feel a build up of him being like, this is it, this is my moment. Like, I've been thinking about this since I was a kid, about challenging this exact thing.
Yeah. You're right. There is no situation. It just the way that plays out is just like, hey, I'm the only one of royal bloodline, so I guess I'll do it. There's no real build up to that moment at all.
It is like it's
And
set up at the
it's just
beginning, but I feel like there is ways to kind of like still breadcrumb up to that moment. Or
I
maybe
think
some people
so.
would disagree.
Yeah, I agree that would definitely be like there's ways of doing it, but I feel like the character of Hellboy himself is just disinterested in whatever expectation is put on him based on his lineage or whatever it might be,
Oh,
right?
this wasn't because he was royal. There's, in fact, they call him a non-royal the whole time. That is part
Right,
of it. Is that
right.
it isn't for him to do. It is he is challenging the stories he's been told from his kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not what you're talking about. It's just him as a non-royal, as someone who isn't expected to do it,
Right.
bucking the system.
Ah.
And I feel like the movie could have built that up more in him with different examples, so that even if you're not hitting the audience over the head of like, remember when he was a kid and he was like, hey, Dad, I think someone could challenge them, but it's still him doing more challenging. Like, as I said, the one thing I liked throughout is the through line of him learning to accommodate others, and that even comes down to the fight where it's like, normally, like, he would have just killed the bad guy, but now it's like, well, now I have to take into consideration not only the fact that this other person will die if I do this, but that is going to affect my brother Abe, who I definitely care about as well. Like, it is a very smart storytelling thing of
Yes.
like, this fight is going to show his growth as a character. I mean, I like that he's still like, yeah, but I'm still gonna like kick his ass, but like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna kill him, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And so you get to see all of that, and it plays out the way it plays out. But I feel like there's also that first bit they had at the movie that is planting the seed for why he would even consider taking them on the way he does.
Yeah.
That could have been built up, but they don't have time because they're dealing with other stuff that may or may not have satisfying conclusions.
Yeah, it's a movie that gets spread apart more evenly, but at the disservice to Hellboy for sure, and Liz.
Especially. I mean, I would say disservice to the movie as a whole, because
it's so well balanced that it forgets where it's supposed to have its primary lead.
I mean, I wouldn't say well balanced. I feel like it's certainly spread out.
Spread out. Spread out is much better worded than balanced for sure. I will agree with that.
But I mean, that's not to say I don't get what people find fun about it. I understand that the first one's dark and gloomy. You know what it is? I think it's a better comparison isn't Batman Begins and Dark Knight. I think it's the first Pacific Rim and the second Pacific Rim. I like the second Pacific Rim. It is fun and not self-serious in all the ways I wanted the first Pacific Rim to be. And I find the Pacific Rim so self-serious that I'm just like, I can't with this movie. I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't
especially
care what thought is put into this. It's not fun. Like I feel like they're making me work for every single second of fun in this movie. I don't like it.
I will say I will agree with that 100%. The first one, First Pacific Rim, I do not enjoy. So much to the degree where I actually did not watch the second one yet.
I don't think you would like. I like John Boyega, and it's fun. I think the fatal wait is he using? Yeah, he has to use his British accent in it because he's playing Idris Elba's son. But like,
Yeah.
the fatal flaw of that is he's using his British accent, but he's basically playing a Will Smith character.
Yeah.
And I just feel like audiences can't reconcile that. They're like, no, you're supposed to be proper. You can't be like the fun guy. You got to be like the cool British guy. And like, so people are put off by that. But like, there's even like a kid character that I'm like, yeah, I would watch more of her.
Yeah.
And I just find it to be fun. Like they
Right.
even make fun of the more serious characters from the first movie by having the what's his name, Clint Eastwood's son, Scott Eastwood.
Yeah.
He's in it, and I'm like, yeah, that's like this represents all the shit I didn't like of the first movie, and I like that he's being used to highlight how different this movie is. But I think that's my experience of Pacific Rim 2 is I feel like everyone else's experience of Hellboy 2, which is just like, yeah, this is fun. Why couldn't we just do this the first time?
Yeah, I especially agree with that because that is what I was looking for out of the Pacific Rim franchise. Instead, they decided to take it way too serious in the first one.
Yeah.
I like that the second one, that you're telling me that the second one is like a lot less serious to the degree where it's like not serious at all and it's making fun of itself.
Yeah. I mean, I think people feel betrayed by that. People feel betrayed, like, well, why are they making fun? But like for me, I was
man. No, I wouldn't.
But I understand that if you legitimately like that first one, the second one is a slap in the face.
Yeah, no, the part of the first one that sucked to me was a little bit too much Charlie Day.
Then you definitely won't like the second one.
Oh, is he in it more?
He's not in it more, but they give him some pretty intense things to do.
Oh, okay. Well, because I can do it with it's like condensed, but when it's like really spread apart, I'm just like, oh my god, it really is. I can't watch too much. It's Sunny in Philadelphia because of that.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna like the second movie, but I find it to be way more fun.
I like what you're describing about John Boyega though, because I do like John Boyega a lot.
And it's like it is like he produced the movie and everything, like it's his thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, if he did this in an American accent, I know why he can't. I think people would have liked it more.
Right.
Because it's like all the Will Smith characters people like competent but still has goofy moments. But if you add a British accent, people are kind of like, wait, what? What is he doing?
I don't know, because I watch like so much UK stuff, especially like the funny stuff that I've come to expect. I haven't come to expect that's like how like a lot of, I guess what you're saying, the audience is saying like, no, you're British, be 007 suave.
Even if you're not 007, it seems like you're either Simon Pegg in Shaun of the Dead or you're 007. There is no like in between.
That's fair.
And I'm not saying I subscribe to that. I'm saying I understand why audiences rejected it. Even if that's not something they're vocalizing, I get that disconnect for North American
they're
audiences.
Like, they want certain stereotypes, and they don't want stereotypes challenged in any way.
Yeah,
and
especially with a black lead, like there's way less leeway because it's a black lead.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because that's what I would be down for, especially making fun of the Scott Eastwood character, because I'm like, why is this so serious? Everyone has to just see the idea that this is just people having fun in robot suits beating up giant monsters. That is ridiculous. It's fun.
There's also a character that figured out how to do it with just one person. I'm like, yeah, this is the movie I wanted to see. I hate that whole you need to be connected to two people. And that's because that is the root of how self-serious and like how much homework it felt like. I'm like, oh my god, they have to sync up. They're unsynced.
Like the idea that people are like, hey, not just anyone can do it. I like that idea.
Yeah.
But give it a different angle. Don't make it so it's like, oh, we have to sync up, and therefore that means our relationship is the most important thing in the world. And it's just like, man, I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
I want you to be like, no, you took some sort of training that
Yeah.
like your reaction time was of the top 1% of the world to be able to take all the electronic stimuli, and it's like you see it by like, oh, it's kind of like an Iron Man suit where you have to control all these different elements to make the suit work, and like that to me would be exciting and cool. But then the argument would be, well, if it's that advanced, why can't they make a simpler user interface?
Yeah. Well, then maybe you will like the second movie.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because all of that gets addressed.
Yeah, then I probably will. I will watch that movie, baby. Good time.
But yeah, the movie we did watch was Hellboy 2, Golden Army. What did you think of the actual Golden Army?
I completely forgot they could do the repair thing. That to me was exciting. I thought that for some reason I remembered there being a machine that just constantly produced Golden Army troops instead of, well, no, they just can repair themselves in really, really cool organic ways. It was like the organic element to a mechanical being, and I thought that was really, really cool. It was like, to me, it was like, oh, okay, this is kind of like how Transformers are, like on Cybertron or something like that, where it's like it's a machine that behaves organically, and that was really, really cool. So that kind of was like, oh, that was a lot of fun, especially but the scene itself bothered me because there was no reason why Liz couldn't flame on and participate in said battle. There was no reason, and it was more confusing than anything else that she didn't.
Do other people participate? I feel like I remember seeing other people join.
Hellboy and Kraus. Kraus, like you see him do I'm gonna get out of my suit and invade like a Golden Army guy, and then like fight as the Golden Army guy. I was like, oh, that was badass. That was cool. Why isn't Liz doing anything? I know why Abe isn't doing anything because Abe can't do anything. But Liz, why aren't you doing anything right now?
I guess it's because isn't it supposed to be just him versus the Golden Army, and that's like a cheat they had where like technically Kraus isn't fighting himself, and it is still a Golden Army member fighting.
I'm
pretty sure that is the workaround. Again, I'm not saying that's good. I feel like that's a weak cheat, but like I'm pretty sure the idea is it has to just be Hellboy.
Really?
I'm pretty sure that's the challenge. I think the challenge is him versus the army.
Don't think that's accurate because.
But that's what's set up in the beginning of the movie. That is the whole thing. One person can challenge.
But one person can challenge the leader of the Golden Army, the person wearing the crown, right? Not challenge the entire Golden Army. Because the moment he's like, they realize, what are we gonna do? And then Hellboy goes like, I challenge for the crown. Then the whole army stops and seems to respect that. Like the whole point of the Golden Army was like, oh, they are loyal to whoever wears that crown kind of deal, right? So the moment Hellboy challenged for it and they were like, no, the challenge is legitimate. Like that's what I mean is it's like the Golden Army.
I guess the only reason I would stick to it has to be one person, because then like if it's a group of people, who gets the crown then?
Well, that would be the biggest thing.
So that's why I feel like it's one person challenging. They can fight. I mean, I just feel like obviously the Golden Army's not up for having the crown. Like that's a non-starter. So it is still the one person challenging the person who owns the crown, but that person can still send the army at them.
Right. I think yes. Like no, not during the challenge, because they make a big point of separating Hellboy away from the prince during that fight once he's issued the crown, once he's issued the challenge for the crown.
Okay.
So they really make a big point of separating them, because the whole fight is Kraus with Hellboy against the entire Golden Army, because Hellboy forgets that he can issue the challenge. Like that's literally it. They're like, and now you will face my army. The prince summons the army. Hellboy is like, okay, I'll face this army, whatever. And I think Hellboy thinks I could take down the entire, like there's 100 of them or something like that, a number that he can manage.
It's 70 times 70, I'm pretty sure.
That I can't remember, but Anyways,
I read that in the IMDb thing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
They must have said it in the movie. It must have gone over my head then. But I'm pretty sure that was what his plan was because he didn't have unlimited bullets. But to me, like the whole like, oh, the army can repair itself. That was like, oh yeah, that was cool. I really, really enjoyed that. Yeah, but I don't think there was any part where the Hellboy
Where she couldn't join in.
Yeah.
Oh. Either
that
way,
bothered me a lot. I was like, you're really writing Liz out of this movie because she's not even joining the fight at this point. But you make a point of showing her, no, she's still got her powers though. Look at what she can do. She can melt the crown. That, like that bothered me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I will be honest. I will just defer to you because I feel like it landed better for you in terms of what the mechanics of that was.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I kind of was just like, oh boy,
because the one thing to be over. Yeah, and so to me, I guess because I was getting what I wanted out of this movie, I paid attention to those parts of the movie, and that's where it started to fall. Like that final fight scene, although it was fun, it felt like all the elements of a good final fight scene. It was bad because it didn't make sense. Because I was like, what?
Yeah, I think my eyes kind of glossed over. Like when I first, because this is only the second time I've seen it. When I saw it in theaters, I was also like, oh boy, like when is this going to end? Yep. And I pretty much had the same feeling this time. I was just like, I don't know, man. Like the fight I liked is when they're at Hellboy's house and he's got like the spear and stuff because he can fend that off without punching the prince. Like that is interesting to me because it is like him having to work through how this is going to work out for him. But once the Golden Army gets introduced and he has to fight them, I'm kind of like
volume. It's volume kills at that point. It's just like taking down ads and just watching things happen. It's just what's the pure visuals of a takedown of a mass group of people.
Yeah.
Like that was fun to me, but like the issue is the fight made no sense.
Yeah,
because
certainly didn't make sense to me.
The lack of Liz made no sense. They forgot about that, and that bothered me.
Yeah, I agree.
Because at that point, I was watching the movie. I was like, wait, Liz has been gone so long out of this movie. Did she lose her powers? Is that what happened? Like I just started questioning that, and then I was like, no, wait, she has her powers. They make use of it right away when she takes off the crown. It's like, no way, we're gonna melt this thing. And I'm like, well, that made no sense. That was dumb. I didn't enjoy that.
What else? What else happened?
Because oh man, like I'm just thinking of this now. If they had the fight, Liz lost her powers, and Jeffrey Tambor's character says like, okay, let's take her away for testing. Hellboy, you stay here. So you gotta still deal with this prince guy that's running around. And then he actually did pause reflection. You saw Hellboy actually talking to other characters about like, oh, how do I make this work better? And she says this, I need to make space for her and all that kind of stuff. That would have been a more successful movie, I guess, for you and for because that would have been a sense where I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. He did the work, and now they come back together, and he's like, hey, I know what to do now.
I just feel like, for me, it's not me believing he didn't do the work, because I can see how they're showing he's doing the work. It's that they don't have a conversation, because what does that matter that we see him doing the work? It matters that she gets to see some kind of demonstrative evidence.
Agree. Yeah. I 100% agree. Like he needs to do they need to have the conversation.
Yeah. Or whatever that looks like in this movie, because it's not a drama, so maybe it's not a conversation, but like something needs to happen where like you see them work together on something.
Yeah,
a fight at the end would be a good thing, would be a good way of doing that. Like the same way I feel like that moment in the first Avengers movie where Iron Man comes and banks a shot off of Captain America's shield, that shows me like, oh, they're working together. That is they're able to work better together. You don't need to have a conversation about, you know what, Cap, I like you or whatever. It's like when it comes down to it, they can work together to accomplish things. And like it's a quick thing, but it's I get that the language of that movie is telling me something in that
Yeah.
moment.
You
And
know
maybe
what
that could have happened during this, that
that could have
Liz
happened during
and
the scene.
Liz and Hellboy work together, and
Yeah.
it's made clear to Liz, like, we are on the same wavelength. Like,
Yeah.
ultimately, he has my back, I have his back.
Yeah. He's just an idiot. Like, if they did that, oh man, that would have been so much better. I'm mad at myself for thinking about that now. Because if Liz participated and like saved, or like if like her and Hellboy together visually were fighting together as a team, as a unit to take down the Golden Army, that would have been wild, and that would have been like, oh, okay, that would have been like, oh, we had her talk through our fight language or whatever. But
like did you see the movie The Old Guard with Charlize Theron?
No, wait, yes, I have.
So like, you know how they
they
can fight without like talking to each other, like they always know where to be in the room, like they know where to like put their hand out, like something like that, like building up to something like that, where it's like, yeah, like they work well together, like you can see it on the screen, and you can assume they had a conversation, because obviously that conversation seems more like Hellboy 1, which I prefer, but like this movie isn't like that. So find some way to like get across to the audience.
No, we're both agreeing on it's lacking in that department. It needs that conversation, or a movie equivalent of a conversation of what that. Because you're right, I wouldn't want them to sit. Let's talk about this from a movie magic standpoint. If they were in the final fight scene fighting the Golden Army together, and they kind of had a conversation during the fight, and that's always kind of fun, where they're like, hey, let's regroup here, let's chat here, like all that kind of thing, during like a serious movie where they're having those kind of communications. But instead they were like, no, we're fighting about a relationship right now, and we're fighting this Golden Army. It's, that would be really, really fun and in spirit of this movie. I'm mad at myself for thinking of that, because that's exactly what this movie needs for it to be much, much better. But I mean, like I said, I got what I wanted out of it, which is still just a fun action movie with a lot of cool monsters. Everyone wins. By everyone, I mean Ben. Not anyone else that's looking for.
And the majority of people who've seen the movie.
Anything else, yeah.
Like I will,
yeah. It does serve that very specific purpose for me.
Okay, do you want to rate it?
Oh yeah. This is a 7 for me.
Interesting, because that is what I give it.
Yeah. Oh, I fully recognize where this movie is. I'm talking a lot of positive things about it, and I'm choosing to, because, like I said, I was looking for fun and levity out of this, and I got it. Perfect.
This is a 7 for me, but that's because I know I didn't say it during the episode, but I feel like Hellboy is a 10 for me. So this is a 7. It's a big drop off, but it is a fun movie. It invokes things like Men in Black.
It does.
It's got a very funny beginning. And some cool fight scenes. That's pretty much all I have to say about the positivity of the movie. It's I think that it's a little too much like, it's just another adventure with them. It doesn't feel as substantial, but obviously people like that, so that's good. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for listening. As Ben said, we are on the That Shelf Podcast Network that features other great podcasts like Bad Gay Movies, Black Hole Films, Changing Reels, Composers, No Budget Nightmare, What a Great Theme Song, and more. So please head on over to thatshelf.com. You can find us as well. And if you'd like to listen to older episodes of Spoiled Rotten, we're at tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. Our Twitter is at tdfspoiled. Our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. And you can get in touch with us that way. And also, this is pretty important. You don't have to just listen on a website. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, Amazon Music. We're in a lot of different places to suit your podcast listening needs. So please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Goodbye.
Cheers.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.